Ads not read by me, Mary Payne, don't necessarily reflect the views of Pink Shade. If you'd like to listen to ad free, you're going to go on over to Supercast or Patreon, and you can find the links to Pink Shade Prime at pinkshadepodcast.com. Hey y'all, welcome to Pink Shade. It's Thursday, so that means it's Bravo Breakdown Day, and I'm recording this on Wednesday night, True Confessions, with two friends that I met in New York on the street at BravoCon, the best time of my life, literally, October of 2022. It's Robert and Jessica from the podcast and the amazing Instagram, The Real Housemates of New York City. Thank you guys for coming on to talk about Bravo.
Hi, thank you for having us. We're so excited to be here.
Super excited. This is awesome. Yes, we met on the street.
We met on the street, but I have to tell the story of how we met. Robert, this is going to be uncomfortable for a minute.
Not
So
at all. It's
we
totally
were
fine.
we were on the street. We had left the Javits Center, and because I'm not so New Yorky, I don't even really know where we were. We were in that. We had walked quite a bit to get near where we could get an Uber or something.
Yeah, no
And
one goes on that side of Manhattan really, unless you're at the Javits Center.
yeah, that's what I was getting the feel of. And I saw you guys and I go, "Oh, are you Josh Flagg?" And you guys, Josh Flagg is from Million Dollar Listing LA, I guess, Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And you were like, "Ah." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." But you said you get it all the time, but you didn't feel that it was a compliment. And I was really sorry. But then we ended up chatting for a long time, and you guys happened to know our podcast and stuff. So we ended up talking podcasting on the streets. And I guess I got your information in my phone. I don't know how I got your information, but I got it. And here we are. Yes.
Yeah, I think that was all Jess. Jess kind of took advantage. My foot was in a bowl of discarded Chipotle, and I was wearing mules, so half my foot was in sour cream.
That's right.
At that point, it's like the end
Yes.
of BravoCon, and oh God, it's been so long, so many hours.
So are you guys going to Vegas?
Probably not, only because it's so expensive, and we took advantage of New York just because we live here, so it was super easy.
Yeah.
But go the flight, the hotel, then the tickets, and we don't want to do general admission. If we are going to do BravoCon, well, we are going to do BravoCon again, but when we do, we want to do the full on. So it's just a
Yeah.
really heavy expense.
Totally
and
big
then,
expense. Yeah.
I
The
might
getting
go on
there,
vacation.
the getting there because we're way over here. We've already got tickets booked. I booked them pretty quickly. I need to check and see if they went down because they were expensive, and then the hotel was expensive, and they haven't even told us how much the BravoCon tickets are going to be yet. And
Right.
we don't want to do Gen Pop again either.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That was I think the biggest takeaway is our general admission tickets were fine. I mean,
Hmm.
we literally, I think, got them the day or two before because we
Yeah,
weren't sure if we were going to go, and we still had a great time. But I can't imagine it. Next time we do it, we want to do it the full experience.
Yes, that's what we have said as well. And so, yeah, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it's going to cost. I'm just bracing for it. I'm bracing for it. But we felt like we missed out last time by having general admission because people that had all
Yeah,
those other tickets got to do so much more stuff.
hmm
yeah.
Yeah,
We know a
yeah.
couple of content creators who were able to they were able to go do the backstage, the meet and greets, away from everybody else, and
Hmm.
that's what we want to experience the next time we experience BravoCon. So we're probably not Las Vegas, but when they come back to New York, that's when we'll definitely go.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, I agree. It's gonna cost a pretty penny. So you guys have been. How long have you had your podcast and been covering Bravo?
it's coming up about 2 years now.
Yeah, I think 2 years. I always mark it by the New Jersey based softball game that we went to. We
Oh
went to
yeah.
and that's right when we started to take off.
That's when
So
you thought this is something I need to talk about. Yeah.
we actually wanted to start it during the pandemic because we the reason we're the Real Housemates is because we used to be roommates for like 5, 7-ish years,
Hmm.
can't remember.
Mhm.
And then when I finally moved out, I just moved 2 apartments down the hall on the same floor. So during the yeah, separation anxiety, not great here.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do this during the pandemic, and we just never really like we were lazy, to be perfectly honest, and we didn't do anything.
Mhm.
So, but we started about 2 years ago, and that's when it was right around the time of the softball game. It wasn't the softball game was our trigger of like we need to cover Bravo, but it was something we were able to do because we live in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think it was the Erica Jane thing
Yeah.
on Hulu. I feel like after we watched that, I think we watched it together and we
Hmm.
were both like, we had so much to talk about as we were watching it. And I was like, why didn't we actually ever start that podcast we were thinking about doing? So it was just time that
Yes,
we
yes.
started it.
And then you guys have a huge, Instagram following, so how does that happen? 'Cause I'm trying to fix mine myself. How does it happen?
Um, so I run the Instagram. Everybody asks us that question, and I tell Jess all the time it's because I used to do stand-up comedy. So like
Okay.
like it just comes like really sarcastic, like kind of digs come really easy to me
Mhm.
because I used to
Mhm.
do it
Yes, I
for so
love
long.
it. Yeah.
Um and I guess it's just for me it's like I only ever post what I feel like is like good. I'll never post just to post. And that's
Mhm.
what I think is helps is like it's always just really coming. And before we even like our Insta took the way that it took, I would always send it to Jess and be like, "Is this too mean? Like, am I being too much of an asshole?"
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
and now it's just whatever comes naturally, honestly. And I say this all the time. I hate my job, so I use this as like as my full time job.
I did when it was the season premiere of Jersey, which we're going to get to here in a minute, and I did it was we'd never seen Rachel Fuda before, but it was a scene where she was talking to Jennifer Aiden, and they were side by side, and I was like, "What's happening with these noses?" I couldn't get over it how they were exactly the same bad nose job. This is before anything about this had been mentioned. I just noticed it. And so I made an Instagram post which with the Steve Martin when he played that movie Roxanne where he's got the big nose that
Mhm.
points and I put all together and I was like and I sent it to Ingrid, my friend who's the producer, and I was like, "Is this too mean?" And she said, "Yeah, it is. You need to give it a couple of more episodes." And then, like on the next episode, they mentioned it. I was like, "Damn it! I missed my window to get ahead of the talk about the nose." Because you couldn't help but notice they had
It
that
was being
same ski
fake.
jump
Yeah.
Yep.
nose.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God bless.
Well,
Well,
there
whatever.
most of the time, Jess will usually be like, "Yeah, go ahead, like just do it," because like what
Yeah.
what's the worst that's gonna happen? We don't. First of all, if you come on our page and you shadow tag anyone, I'm gonna immediately delete the comment because that's not cool. Like if I'm not
Yeah,
tagging the
totally.
person, don't tag them. And I never do it like for me, I will not touch upon sexual orientation. I will not touch upon any sort of mental health issues outside
Mhm.
of that, if you electively chose to make your nose look like a ski jump from Vermont, I'm going
Yeah.
to make a comment about it.
Yeah, I think I was making jokes that it was like the Olympics,
Yeah.
and when you'd watch the actual ski jump portion of the Winter
Yes.
Olympics, I was like, "What
Mhm.
tricks could you do off of Jen Aiden's nose?"
It's wild, and then she said she got a chin implant, but then she took it out, and I was like, "I haven't seen any difference." But, I mean, I'm not studying it that closely, but I was like, "It looks." I mean, she didn't have it, and then she did have it, and then she doesn't have it, and it all looks the same to me. So, it's interesting too that she's going to those doctors in Turkey that a lot of people go to. We see it a lot on TLC, and her husband wouldn't do it because he's probably like, "You don't need any of this stuff." So she's like, "I'll show you. I'll go to Turkey and get it done." Like,
I know that's
who's
what I was
paying for
telling him
that? Yeah.
because I watched Darcy and Stacy. I'm also like a really big 90 Day
Mhm.
fan. So, of course, I watched
Mhm.
Darcy and Stacy as well. And I was like, oh my God, did she go to the same place as Darcy and Stacy? Because, like, oh God, not the best choice.
So a listener wrote me this week and said that a man in her office, had gone to Turkey to get a hair transplant, and that they put everybody that's recovering, like a Darcy and Stacy, like all in the same hotel. So the nurses just go like floor to floor, like helping people with their hair transplant or their nose jobs or their gastric bypass or whatever you're getting done there in Turkey. I was like, wow, this is quite an industry. Didn't they just have a big
Yeah.
earthquake? I was like, what's happening over there? Yeah.
Honestly,
Maybe
wow.
should I go to Turkey? Then I question all my choices in life. Okay, let's quickly talk about final thoughts on Vanderpump before we take our Vander break.
Oh my god.
What are your final closing thoughts on Vanderpump Rules? Let's hear it.
I guess mine would just be there's talk in the sphere about breaking it up between the vets, like the vets who will not film with Sandoval, and then Schwartz and
Yeah.
Sandy starting their own spinoff from Vanderpump. And honestly, I would like that only because I don't really need to watch Sandoval. Listen, Raquel,
Hmm.
Rachel, however you call her, whatever her name is for you, she went away to a mental health facility, and we again don't comment on people's mental health, so like I hope that she's taking
Hmm.
the time that she needs. I don't think that she should come back to reality TV. Lala said to TMZ like this is a very special person can handle this and she can't, so it
Right.
wouldn't feel fun for her to come back, just because
Right.
I don't think that she's going to be able to operate on the same level as everybody else.
Hmm.
And I do not want to watch Sandoval or Schwartz. I've hated Schwartz longer than I've hated Sandoval, and I will go to my grave saying that he's worse. I don't like that
Yeah.
adorable idiot, and I'm good with them breaking off into the two.
Yeah, I think I'm just
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm just tired at this point. It's been so much and so long of Scandival that I'm like, oh my god, I feel like it's been like beaten into my head kind of thing of like all of this craziness happening. So I'm one
Yeah.
happy for the break for sure. Um, but I don't know. Overall, I mean, obviously, I hate Sandoval. I do think that a split would be nice. I don't necessarily need to see him interact with everyone. But at the same time, if those rumors are true that Jax and Brittany are coming back, then I'm like, I'd like to see the interaction between Jax and all of them as well. So I don't know. It's a wait and see type thing. But I do agree. I think Rachel should probably take a break, a long break.
Yes.
Just go do
Uh-huh.
your thing.
A final
Yeah.
Yeah.
pause, if
Yeah.
you will.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so you guys have been watching Atlanta. I've been watching it, but I'm not totally into it. And I don't know why. I did see this week Candy and Marlo's fight about Marlo's nephew. Now, I had been led to believe this whole time that Marlo's nephew worked at Blaze when he was killed, but that wasn't the case. He had worked there and moved on to something else and was killed. But then Marlo's whole thing was he was killed by a person that he met there. And they're like, a customer? Like, what are we supposed to do about that? So I really understood Candy's side of like, what you're trying to do is like besmirch the name of my restaurant, but you're not telling the whole story. And then they pulled up those texts where Marlo's like, this thing happened. And also, will you make sure to give me credit when you log on to Cameo? So that that's all I've gotten from the whole season so far. And then Sheree's got this like huckster guy of a boyfriend that's like, hey, and he's out there like on every reality show having babies or something. And that's all I've gotten. Am I missing anything?
So, not really. I don't
No.
think. Yeah, I think you
No.
pretty much hit the nail on the head. Martell probably will never be back filming again on Atlanta because Kenya went in on him so hard, and Sheree's like,
Yeah,
"Oh no! You've got to stay off now."
yeah.
Um, the whole thing with Marlo's nephew, I think, is really cringe. Like you're using your nephew's death and murder, homicide as a
Hmm.
storyline, and like
Hmm.
that's not great. I didn't think Marlo should have been a full time housewife, to be perfectly honest. I think she was great as friend of.
Oh.
She was friend of for like 11 years. She shined, and I think now it's getting to be too much between her kicking her nephews out of the house last season to now
Hmm.
bringing up her nephew's death. Like I don't think she knows what it is to be a housewife.
Yeah, and I just
I
feel like
do.
she's
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. No, I
Yeah.
feel like she's just trying to like start things out of nothing to create a storyline for herself because I do also feel like this season of Atlanta is lacking a lot
Yeah.
because they have brought
Hmm.
up BravoCon a lot, which
Yep.
is rare. You don't ever really see
Yeah.
them break that wall. and then the producers have come on to like talk to them a lot on camera, where like I think
Yeah.
it was at the restaurant with Candy, and they walked up to her and was like, "Don't you guys want to talk about that one thing that happened?" And they're like, "No," and they just keep eating. And I'm like, the fact that producers now have to actually come on camera to actually like stir the pot means that this is going to be not a great season. So, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think unfortunately we might be getting Kim Zolciak back. And I mean,
I love
or fortunately, depending on how
that.
you
I
look
love
at it.
that. Give
I
her
don't
her Domino's pizza, give her like all of her wigs, give her her solo cup of wine. We need it. Like we truly do need it.
I'm
yeah, it'd be
okay without it, but
interesting. Yeah, I think I can't imagine she's not gunning for her own show with this divorce,
I could see
and
that
I'd
too.
watch it. I'd watch it. I would.
don't be tardy
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Oh God, don't be tardy for the don't be tardy for court. I mean, for don't be tardy for the
Don't be tardy
divorce.
for court.
Yeah. Okay, so OC. So we haven't had much yet, but I am happy Tamara's back. It's not always a popular opinion, but I enjoy Tamara Judge. I do. How do you feel?
I love Tamara Judge. She's in my top 5 housewives of all time.
Okay.
Has been
Okay.
forever. Ever since she did the Sist and Deceased and the wine in the face, like she's always been. And I truly believe that the downfall of OC when we had those like 2 or 3 really horrible seasons is because Tamara wasn't there. We had
Yeah.
nobody to stir anything up. And Emily and Gina, God bless, like good participation trophy awards. But they
Yeah.
are not Tamara Judge, and neither is Heather
They
Dubrow.
should both be friends of. They should both be friends of. I don't understand why they're still housewives. I
Yeah,
don't.
I agree. But no, I'm so happy she's back, and I'm so happy that she admitted on her podcast that she is a mess this entire season.
Yeah. Yeah, do you guys listen to that? I kind of dip in and out of two teas in a pod depending on the subject, but strangely enough have enjoyed that podcast.
I like the podcast because Tamara's on it. I don't like Teddy Joe. Never have, never will. I can't with the accountability coach that takes no accountability ever.
My neighbor, my good friend, loves Teddy Mellencamp. She's like, I can't believe you don't love her. I'm like, you're really on an island by yourself with that. I was like, I mean, I don't hate her, but I don't love her. It's like I'm fine.
Yeah,
I'm neutral with her.
I don't need her on
I
my
mean,
screen ever again.
No,
She
there's not much to like about Teddy
no,
Nattencamp, as we
not in
like to
camp.
call her.
Yeah, we give
It's just
nicknames to housewives that we're not big fans of. Like Ramona was Voldemort.
yeah, because of just how horrible of a
okay.
person she really is.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Ramona. All right, so let's go into New Jersey because that's really what we want to talk about.
Mhm.
So I have written way too many notes on this, so I'm going to try to go through and just hit the highlights just so we can really discuss what the hell's happening here. So the first thing we get is that the guys come out, and the first question Andy asks Louis is about the no-nos pajamas. And
Oof.
he says the first of many times that he it was a misstatement. He misspoke. He misspoke. He doesn't sleep in the pajamas. It's just that they were cleaning out some boxes and he found some old sweats and he wore them in an endearing way for Teresa and the girls. And he was just trying to connect with Joe Gorga by telling him that. None of that makes any sense. No was a solid 5'1". I mean, there's no way his clothes fit Louis. Putting
Who's like
old
6'10".
sweatpants on, yeah, is not putting on old sweatpants is not better than putting on old pajamas. Like it's
No.
weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's
It
weird.
Yeah,
it was so cringe.
the entire thing is just odd. And it was odd the first time you said it. And it's like him trying to make up for it and create excuses as to what actually happened. I'm like, you're just kind of making it worse. Like, it was already a bad
Yeah.
comment. And now you're like, oh, it was just an endearing way. And I misspoke this. And I'm like, none of this makes sense. You're just kind of talking out of your ass right now. And I'm not really understanding what's happening. But okay, Louis, continue, I guess.
He's such a monster. He is such
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
monster.
Yeah.
So we get this fight with Joe and Teresa and Melissa about like you never invited me out to dinner. It just reminds me of like Vicky and like you didn't bring me a casserole. It's so stupid, right? You
Yes.
did. It's just like you didn't invite me to dinner, and they're like, we did. We have pictures. Like we invited you to dinner, and she was like, no, you said you could only go out with couple friends, and and then of course Jennifer Aiden's like, I take out my single sister because and they're like that made no sense. That went on and on
Uh,
and on. And then they go back and forth. You're a liar. You're a liar. You're a liar. And then Teresa reiterates this is the last time she's ever going to speak to Melissa and Joe. And and he's like, that's terrible. That's terrible. And she's like, yeah, it is. It's her fault. Melissa's like, oh yeah, it's my fault. Did you have feelings on Melissa's hooded dress?
how heavy is that hood? Because
It's
she
like,
keeps having to fluff it up like it's some bird of like mating
mm-hmm.
dance thing. And I'm concerned she's gonna get like scoliosis.
Yes. Yeah.
It's very heavy. It's a very much a Dementor, if you will, hoodie. Circa
Yes.
Rachel Raquel.
Yeah, or her chandeliers.
Yes.
Yeah, or her chandeliers.
We like
Or
to say that Melissa Gorga's chandeliers look like Dementors. So
yeah,
I mean, I feel like
They
this is
totally do. They
they're
totally
comfy.
do. That's a great
they're
call.
terrifying. They're terrifying.
Yeah, she
I'm
really leaned in. She really leaned in. She didn't just do
that
one or
house of
two of those
horror.
things.
So we
Yeah.
actually
She
met Melissa in person, and we actually met Teresa in person and Dolores and all of them at that softball game. Um,
okay.
and fun fact, Melissa's not that nice of a person. Probably not
Stop.
shocked by that. Yeah, no, she's not.
No,
No,
no.
I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this.
no. She
But go
Teresa was
ahead.
actually incredibly nice, like super nice to
Hmm.
us, and so is unfortunately the red purple tomato that she's now married to.
Mhm.
They were both really nice, but Melissa was just awful. So ever since then, we've never really we can't shake it from ourselves. We also met Meredith Marks at the same softball game because she was there.
How is
So
she?
s-
How is Meredith?
incredibly well. I'll let you take it away because I blacked out.
Yeah, Meredith is like one of Robert's like favorite housewives, and I think she was
Okay.
like one of
Uh-huh.
the first ones that actually interacted with us on
she
Instagram
was
when we started the pod.
she was the first housewife to follow us.
So it was like a big
Oh.
deal, and we didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we didn't expect to see her in like the Brooklyn softball game for Jersey, but she popped up out of nowhere,
Mhm.
and I just saw his face, and his face just dropped, like he was just starstruck, and I was like, "What happened?" And I turned my head, and he was like, "It's Meredith." So yeah, I had to do most of the talking because he was shaking.
Too much.
He tried
Yeah.
to even take a video of the interview, and it's just like Meredith's chest because he couldn't like hold the phone properly.
Fair.
But no, she was really nice. I think even, I mean, we could be crazy. They weren't that big then, but I feel like she oddly recognized us when I said like who we were and like what account we were
Yeah.
from. She
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
gave sort of a sense of recognition, and even like her demeanor shifted into more of a friendlier feel versus just kind of like, oh hi, yeah, you're gonna ask me some questions, I'll answer them. But it was like, oh, it's you guys, yeah, of course. I was like, oh, this is
Okay.
so nice.
Yeah.
You seem so pleasant. So yeah, she was a very nice person. We liked her.
Was she in a blazer?
She was in her denim, her wide leg denim bell bottom jeans, and then her denim Meredith Marks jacket that's cropped and it was over the shoulder. Like she was very chic. But it was the middle of August and 150 degrees in the heat of a softball field, so she had to have been sweating like a wildebeest.
Yeah, I don't know if a denim suit sounds
No,
cute to me. It sounds very Brittany and Justin,
it
on
and
the
she had
yeah.
the baseball hat too.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
it
It was
was
a very
Okay.
Meredith look, I
yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
to phrase it in that way. She has
Okay.
a style that's, yeah, there you go. It's you. It's very
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Not for me,
I do
but
I do like her, and so I'm glad to hear she was nice. All right, so then we see this whole situation with this, oh, you came on the show and you ruined my life and you dragged me through the mud. And Melissa goes, coming on the show is how we drag you through the mud? Like, what are you talking about? And then we sort of start to see Louis' cards here where he says, Joe is saying to Teresa, because she's acting so nuts, Joe is saying, like, you need to chill. You're ruining yourself. You need to chill. Like he's looking out for her. You need to chill. You're ruining yourself. And Louis goes, no, she's not. And you can sort of see that puppet master thing, how it goes the way for the rest of the show. and I'm terrified of him, and I think he's a cult leader, and I'm afraid.
I can absolutely see the cult leader vibe thing. And
Yeah.
also, like, looking at him is exactly like looking at Tom Sandoval. Like, the two of them are interchangeable.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 I
Same vibe.
it's it's like all Louis gonna do is just enforce all of the bad traits that Teresa has and all of the
Yeah.
things that I feel like we all hate about Teresa. Where like
Mhm.
she has her times. I think like Ultimate Girls Trip was the
Yep.
first time I saw her in a different light, and I was like, oh hey, you're actually not the worst person to watch on television.
Well,
But
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, you're shifting back, and Louis is just like making it worse.
well, because even Joe said, he was like, when you got out of prison, that's when we really were able to reconnect again. And that's when Teresa became Teresa. And I was like, yeah, you're 100% right. That season when she first came back out and it was Joe and the girls and all of that, like that's when I was like, there's a different side of Teresa other than this screaming, no foreheaded type of person. Like you're a mom, you've got a heart, and I can't believe I'm agreeing with Joe Gorga because I don't like him either. But I agree with him. Like he's right. Like when Teresa got out of camp, as she calls it,
Mhm.
she was a different person, and now that she's with Louis, she's kind of back to her old self, which I can't
Yeah.
stand the old Teresa.
Yeah, same.
I think that is a great point that he brings out the worst qualities in her, the ones that we don't like. I think it's a great point. And she was sitting there saying, she's trying to blame everybody still for when she went to prison. And, Andy was like, Joe Judice is the reason you went to prison. Like,
Your
nobody
husband.
here, yours was your husband. Like, I don't know why she thinks that being on a reality show, this wasn't going to catch up with them. And, whether she knew what she was signing or not, or turned a blind eye like a Carmela Soprano, like, I don't know. But, but it's over. Like, let it go. I mean, So,
Yeah.
anyway, so they go in a circle, and then we have all these little side stories like, hey, Joe Bonino, how do you like a toddler living with you? And hey, John Fuda, you got hazed. Now let's look at the Real House Husbands. We do a whole thing. We talk about Frank living with David, da 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 da. Da. Frank
So
and
weird.
Paulie, they're in a good place. And we talk about the pool house with Bill Aiden. Who cares? Then we get into Frankie working for Louis. Okay. So Dolores says he got another job and that was it. And that's what happened. And I don't want to talk about Frankie at all in the cesspit. And that's it. And she's giving Frank Catania a look. And so Frank Catania looks like, I don't know if he looks like he's taking a polygraph. He's like holding his hands and staring straight forward. And he will not look at anybody. He won't look at Dolores. He won't look at anybody. And Joe Gorga leans over and was like, "You're gonna have to say something." And Melissa like leans back. It's like, "Aren't you gonna say something?" And he goes, literally, he goes, "I will not speak unless spoken to. Like I'm not
I,
gonna."
I agree with
It was
that.
wild.
I think that Dolores, because I was looking at two sides. Like it was okay. The kid, if you're the kid on the show, then you're part of the show. Kind of like the whole Meredith Brooks thing with Salt
Yeah.
Lake, and then
Mm-hmm.
also Gia and Teresa. So I get it, but they were actively part of the plot line on the show. Frank
Mm-hmm.
Jr. was never part of the show. So I think
Right.
he would come on for his mom or his dad, but not he didn't have like a reason to stir a storyline to keep continuing. So I
Mm-hmm.
think personally, I get everyone keeps like not attacking, but everyone keeps going after Dolores, being like, "You like, how dare you shut down this storyline? Like, it's part of the show." Blah blah blah. No, she's a mom. She doesn't want her
Mm-hmm.
kid to be dragged through the mud. I totally get that. Like Frank, I keep saying like Tom Sandoval during that stupid Howie Mandel interview. But no, Frank Jr. was never part of the storyline of New Jersey this season. So why are we bringing him up? Other than Joe Gorga wanting to stick it to Louis, which okay, fine, fair, whatever. But Frank, I feel like should have been with Dolores and said, "Our kid is not part of this conversation. Switch it."
And
Yeah, and I
Andy
feel like
did. Andy did. Don't you think he did? Yeah, because
yeah.
Melissa looks at Joe Gorga and says he doesn't want this. She doesn't want this story told. And Dolores looks over at Joe Gorga and goes, Joe Gorga, this ends right here. You and I have never had a problem, and I don't want one. We're not talking about Frankie. Louis, I was grateful you gave my son a job, and that's it. And is everybody afraid of Louis? Is Dolores, because she's on that couch, is, I, something's happening here. Okay, something's happening here with them. With I
Yeah.
get why she doesn't want to talk about Frankie. That part I get.
Yeah.
But why does she want
I don't
anything
think
else talked about?
I don't think Dolores from Patterson could be afraid of any human being on Earth.
Hmm.
Like from Patterson, New Jersey. I've been to Patterson because I've had to open a couple of stores there for a couple of brands. It's not the best part of New Jersey. I don't see Dolores being afraid of really anybody other than probably her mother or father. So I don't think it's
Yeah,
she's afraid of Louis. I think she's more looking out for Frankie.
I I feel like it's a mixture of all of this where like yeah, she's being the mom who's like, "Hey, this is my son. Can we not bring him into this because this reunion's a shit show. So like let's not do this with
Yeah.
my son." Which I totally get, but I do feel like I agree with you that there's something happening on that side of the couch where like I don't know if it's necessarily fear from him, but I feel like it's this, hey, I'm on the side of Teresa and Louis and I need to stay on this side. Not because of what he might do to me, but just because like I need to keep this friendship okay for whatever
yeah,
reason is happening underneath all of this. That's like this is more important. So like just shut up. We're not going to go there and I'm just going to be like just leave this alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's for me I see what you were saying and I see what Robert's saying. There's like this mixture of everything that's happening on that side that I'm like, "Oh god, okay."
It's called toxic masculinity, and that's what it is because that is who Louis is. He's
yeah.
incredibly toxic. The fact that he had to come on in the second episode without a shirt eating flaming hot Cheetos, nobody asked for that. Nobody needed that. You could have
Nope.
put a shirt on.
Mm-mm.
Like, I
Nope.
don't understand.
Mm-mm.
No. No.
Yeah. So, Polly tells Dolores, just chill, just ignore it.
Yeah.
And Andy says, well, okay, this does beg a lot more questions. And as he's kind of saying that, the hero of the show, the bearded wonder of John Fuda, says, hey, I have a question. Andy goes, all right. And he goes, how come Louis and Teresa decided to bring my kid's mother into all of this? Why are you guys having me investigated? And Louis starts with, I never had you investigated. I never did. And Margaret's Joe Bonino goes, yeah, you did. And Joe Food is like, yeah, you did. I love Joe Bonino on this episode is just every so often
Hmm.
sliding in with a, yeah, you did.
Yep.
We know
Mhm.
you did. He's not he's not coming too hard, but he's saying just enough to be like, we all know what you've done. And they're all, we know Joe Bonino's a contractor. John Fudo obviously has all these
Hmm.
businesses. Joe Gorga's a contractor. I don't know what Frank Sr. does anymore now that he's not a lawyer. But, they're all like, we know what you did, man. You know?
I
So
was
Louis
expecting
says,
a bigger thing from John Fuda because I don't watch ever live. It's not I can't do it. So I always usually watch either right after it comes out or the next day. And I kept seeing all
mhm,
these Instagram posts. I'm like, wow, John Fuda came to the mat today. Like he came for. I'm excited. Like I think that he's gonna. You're not just gonna be known to shave your chest hair, and
right.
then he came. And I wish he had just opened that envelope. I wish he opened the envelope of
Yeah.
receipts because
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
it stayed closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
That's my
says eye for an eye. He says eye for an eye.
mhm.
And he holds out
Yep,
the envelope and he said, then he's the one that says, this is how we play. And he holds up the
exactly.
envelope and he says,
Mhm.
you leave my kid out of it. So everybody starts talking over each other, right? Oh, and so
Usually.
then they say about this, Bo Deedle thing. And they're like, yeah, that's the private investigator. And John Fuda goes, yeah, he did call because I know people, and you literally can't just call someone in prison. He should have said, "You should know this, Teresa." He should have. I mean, that was a great chance to, but he
Yeah,
didn't. And
Yeah.
he said, you can't just call someone in prison. You have to use a certain way to look somebody up in the system. And so I know that that's what you did, and it can be traced back. And Louis goes, I don't know. Take it up with Bo Deedle. And Teresa goes, yeah, take it up with Bo Deedle. And Andy goes, okay, okay, all right, hold on. In the finale, you did say that Bo Deedle, this private investigator, has information on everybody, and then we see the clips, right? And then we see the clip of the next day. The next
yeah,
day to me is the really important thing. Dead sober at breakfast, he looks at Teresa's only two allies and says, I've got an envelope on all of you. I've got information on all of you. The next day.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we actually talked about it on our podcast how it was weird that Dolores, of all people, would let that go. Because Dolores is not like that. So again, I feel like Dolores is just trying to be like, okay, I don't want to piss this man off because he's
Mhm.
clearly doing something.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
think Jennifer Aiden has the mental capacity to handle. You do realize that he's digging dirt on you, right? Like he's going to expose Bill for being a cheater or you for whatever it is. Like Jennifer Aiden doesn't have the mental capacity to do that. But I do believe Dolores at that point was like, I'm not fucking with this man. I am trying to bow out as quickly as I can.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. I think
Yeah.
Dolores is like, all right, well, I'm dealing with something different here. And I'm
Right.
just gonna keep Teresa as my friend, and maybe we're not doing a lot of couple dates anymore, you know?
Exactly.
Um, and so Louis again says what he said earlier about the pajamas. He says, that was a misstatement when I missaid that. Then they play the whole clip of it. Bo Dietl's got an envelope and blah, 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 and he's clearly saying it. It wasn't a misstatement. And then the next morning, and Andy goes, so you misstated it twice? You said it twice? You said the next day too. Um, and he just says there's so much information on all these people. And you just see Dolores looking at him like, all right. Then Rachel says one night she and Melissa went out to dinner and Bo Dietl was sitting at the table next to them.
That was creepy.
Mhm.
And then he was like, then they're saying to Louis, like, you definitely hired him. And he goes, no, I didn't. I didn't. And he said I didn't. And John Vito goes, that's client privilege. He can't say that he's doing it on your behalf, right? And then he says, yeah, you're having everybody do your dirty work. You need to stop your bullshit. I want you to know I see right through both of you. And I've got
I did like
connections,
that.
big
I did
ones.
Mhm.
like that a lot.
I got,
Yeah.
and he goes, you guys did it. And you know you did it. And Teresa goes, really, John? Prove it. I deal with facts. Prove it. And
He
Louis
has a
goes,
whole
I don't even,
envelope.
he goes, Louis goes, I don't even know who you are. So, like, he's trying to be like, I've been on this show 2 seasons and you've been on one. It's like, nobody knows who you are, Louis. Louis like, I don't even know who you are. Like, he's been on the show 20 years or something.
No one even
Oh
knows how
my
to spell
God.
his name.
I know I spell it wrong
No.
all
I
the
know I do.
time. I'm like, is it Louis? I don't even. Nah, yeah.
Is there an O or is there not an O? Is it
I
No.
LU or LOU? We don't
I've
know
decided I'm gonna spell it however I feel that day, whether
Yeah.
there's an O
in the
involved or not.
moment.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
love
Okay.
that his like stupid excuse to Andy was like, I said it out of anger. I'm like, you said what out of anger? That you hired Bo Dietl? Like you did. We all know you did. So stop
Yeah.
lying clearly on camera. Yeah,
Well,
it's
also
a
that
lot.
bodyguard just showed up out of nowhere because you didn't hire Bo Dietl. So is this a gift that Bo Dietl gave you? Like, good luck at the reunion. Here's a bodyguard. Like, I don't understand
It's
that.
it is so strange. So that's when Melissa's like, okay, so you're saying you did not hire a private investigator. He says, no, I did not. I was angry and I was stressed. I'm just so worried about Teresa and her brother. And she was like, uh-huh. And Andy says, so you made it up. And
Right.
then he doesn't answer. They all start to talk and he doesn't answer. And then Andy tells the thing about there's a man downstairs who's a security person that you
Yep.
hired to come here. And Louis goes, no, I didn't hire him. I didn't hire him. Bo Dietl did. He sent him here. And then they all are like, what the fuck?
That was
What?
exactly. I was like, "What do you mean?" Okay, so if you didn't hire Bo Dietl, was this a gift with purchase that you're getting? Like, I don't
Right.
understand how this bodyguard just showed up, being like, "Hi, I'm supposed to be here today. I was hired by B Diddle. So when do I walk in?"
That's the
Yeah.
thing is like even down to like everyone saying you're even just friends with Bo Dietl, and
Right.
Louis like, no, I'm not. I'm like, so then why is the next thing out of your mouth? Oh, Bo Dietl sent the security guy. I'm like, if you're not friends with him and you didn't hire him, why would this random private investigator send a security guard your way and then tell him to call the producers? This makes no sense
Would
whatsoever.
you hire me, a
No.
random bodyguard, just to show up to a reunion?
No, never.
No. Done. Answered.
I mean, no, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So Andy goes, so did you hire Bo Dietl, who he's now said 3 times he didn't, but Andy's not letting it go. He says, did you hire
Right.
him to get information on everyone? And then he says, no, Bo Dietl has been working on a case of somebody that's harassing my life. Someone in this room is talking to that person. It's Margaret. So you did hire Bo
Right.
Dietl to figure out he's working on a case about somebody who's harassing you. So you did hire him. You
Yeah.
did hire him. So
Yeah.
that's what he just said. Teresa goes, Margaret's been speaking to the person that's harassing us, right, babe? We have an affidavit from that woman. And Louis goes, we have more than that. As how do you have that if you're not investigating people? What are you talking
how do
about?
you how do you how do you have an affidavit if there's no investigation? You literally can't have one if no one's being investigated. It's
Ho
not possible.
how is there even an investigation if you never hired a private investigator? These
Right.
things just
It doesn't
happen
make
out of
any
nowhere.
sense.
No.
And he just says he's helping him with them with a life situation. So then they say, well, this is about all the women coming forward saying that Louis is abusive. And he goes, nope. Mm-mm, and you're not going to say that. That's not what's going on, Margaret. And that's when he goes, let's play. And Margaret just looks at him and says, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he says, explain this to me. He says, do you want me to expose how you're paying bloggers? Is that what you want me to do? And she goes, yeah, go ahead, expose it. What are you talking about? You're
So
paying
Margaret does,
bloggers?
yeah, Margaret does have a history of hiring bloggers to just plant stories, which every housewife does.
Yeah.
If you're a housewife worth your salt, it's been happening since Jill Zarin was on season 1 of Roni. Like she calls page 6, they plant something, Bethany then calls page 6 and plants something else. Like it's nothing new. Like I think Louis was thinking this was going to be like a big whole bombshell. And if you've been in Bravo as long as we've been in Bravo, this is nothing new. Of course, Margaret calls people to plant stories. Duh.
Right,
Yeah,
but paying bloggers makes it seem like Margaret is paying a blogger. Are bloggers even a thing anymore? Paying a blogger to write a positive story about her. I didn't even take that as calling TMZ because they all call page 6. And
I don't know how Margaret can pay a
yeah.
blogger when she's got millions of dollars in lawsuits against her fake brand. So I don't know where she's getting money to pay her bloggers when her house still isn't even done. So like, no,
I,
she's
I,
not paying anyone.
I didn't think anything. And he was like, you're lying. You're lying. And she goes, I'm lying. And then she says, you called my child at his place of business. And he says over and over, he didn't do it, even though they've shown him the evidence. Now, I did hear Andy Cohen talking about this whole thing about the phones. And he's talked about it before on his show. Not in relation to this, that there was something going around where his phone would ring. It would say Margaret Joseph. It would be her number. He would pick up. No one was there. And Portia has said this happened to her. It would say a housewife's name or Andy Cohen. She'd pick it up and nobody would be there.
So I listened
Cell
to
phone
two
to cell
T's.
phone.
Yeah, two T's in a pod actually commented on this too because Tamara and Teddy were both a part of it. So
Hmm.
Teddy was filming with Kyle once, and Kyle got a phone call from Lisa Vanderpump, and Teddy got a phone call from Lisa Rinna. Same thing. Somebody had hacked the Bravo whatever account and got all of these
Hmm.
numbers. They don't do anything with it. All they do is just call and hang up. Like
Hmm.
it's not like a big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it is
Yeah.
because they have their cell phone number, but they're not threatening anyone. They're not doing what Louis did to Margaret's son and like
Right.
threatening him. It's just
Well, there was
spoof
like,
calls.
it's a landline, and he spoke and he said, I'm the one
Exactly.
you need to worry about. And it was his voice from his phone number calling a landline at a secure company. And he's like, I don't know how that happened. I don't know. I didn't do that. I didn't do that. I don't know.
When it's
So
your number
for
that you admitted to
f
on the
yeah, he's
call
like, "Yeah,
log.
it's my number,
Cool.
but I didn't do that." And then Frank and Margaret and Joe are all going, "You have no credibility. Like, you have no credibility." And they turn to Jennifer Aiden, who for the first time, and maybe the only time, the whole reunion looks a little like, ugh, like a little like she got a little bit like, "That's not good." Like a little bit, maybe the light was coming on for her. Maybe, maybe. So
That's sure.
it's questionable.
We'll give her that grace. We'll give her that grace. You're
So
so much
then we
nicer
do all this whole. I know. So we do this whole thing about you're lying, and did you investigate Joe Gorga? Did you investigate Margaret? Did you investigate Melissa? No, no, no. And a lot of you're lying back and forth. So Frank says, let me tell you about this. Let me tell you why I'm like this. I've never done anything this reunion. I sit here, I don't talk. The worst thing that's ever happened is I called Polly Buzz Lightyear. Like, I don't talk about things until I'm hurt, and then I get nasty, okay? Because that's what alpha men do. If I hear you're investigating me for a slander campaign, you can understand where I'm coming from. It's going to get nasty. So why are you doing this? And Joe and them are like, yeah, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? And Melissa's like, I mean, I've never had anybody investigate me. Now you got this new man and I'm being investigated. So Andy's like, okay, so there's been a smear campaign. Louis like, no, nope, no smear campaign. So Danielle from the side over there was like, can somebody explain to me what a smear campaign is?
I love
See what?
her. I'm sorry. I love her down to my toes. I think she is one of the best additions to Bravo. The fact that she is so honest when she's like, first of all, at the reunion one, when she's like, I really want Shake Shack. And now she's like,
Yeah.
what's this? I love her. She's amazing. She's so funny.
I thought that was funny. And poor Rachel from the other side is like, when you get bad tweets and you have like bad stuff on social media and bad publicity. And she's like, oh, okay. And Louis goes, that's not why there's hate. That's not why there's hate. And Melissa goes, you're just trying to intimidate us. And Margaret says, you have a tattoo of fucking warrior on your chest. And he goes, you're damn right I do. And then he does this like weird coked out
Yeah.
thing with
Yeah.
his eyes and is like, be careful. And so then Joe Benito goes like, wait a minute, are you threatening her? And Louis said, no, 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 I just said be careful because you're lying. He's and Joe Gorga's right. He is every time he can do it under his breath. Now on Peacock that I watched it, you don't have a choice with closed captions. They give you the words and you can't turn it
Right.
off.
Mhm.
So that's a problem because when they're getting these Louis things under his breath, it's kind of like going on top. So I'm like, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
What? So I'm trying to, but it's a lot of here are some things he says. Your day is coming in due time. You're going to get yours. It's a lot. It's a lot. Then he
It,
tells I don't know why I can't say Joe Gorga. Tells Joe Gorga, oh, did you have millions in fines this week? And they laugh. And he's like, no. And then he goes, I buy the building from you. I buy the building from you. And he and Frank laugh hysterically. They're like, okay, he's going to buy the building from you. What is he talking about? So then he does the your day is coming. And Joe says, listen, you're doing all this stuff and you're hiring these people, but these girls, like they all talk and we know everything that you're doing. And Louis looks him dead in the eye and goes, I know everything. He goes, great, say
so
it.
creepy.
What do you know? Okay, now let's talk about the pizza oven. So,
Okay.
okay, because I'd like
It's in
one.
America.
I'd like a
Yeah.
pizza oven. I'd
Same.
like
Same.
one.
Mhm.
So,
Regardless of who's giving it to me. I don't care if it's Joe or Teresa or Lou. I don't care. I want a pizza oven. It's portable.
yeah.
It's fun. You can make it with the kids.
And you can make your own little pizza, whatever you
Yep.
want. Yeah. So they talk about the pizza oven, and it just seems like Joe and Louis had a plan, and then Louis stole the plan, but nobody had really given any money. Only Louis had given some money, but then Joe got mad about it because he stole the idea, and they did a photo shoot without Teresa. No, they did a photo shoot without Melissa and the kids, but it was supposed to be with Louis's kids and Joe and Melissa's kids and Teresa's kids to have like a you know, I don't know,
Like we're one big family.
one big family all
My
making
thing
pizza
is like,
together.
if you're
Yeah.
doing a business deal, why is there no contract? Like, I don't remember who
Right.
brought it up on the
John Fuda,
reunion. Yeah,
because
like
John Fuda had
Fuda.
he was the best this
everything.
entire
Yeah.
reunion.
He said, why was there no form signed? And I have to say, why was there no form signed? Like, you don't get into a business deal just being like, hey, so I guess we could make a pizza oven, guys. And I guess you could figure out payment of 5% on Sunday. So cool. Cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. Like,
Yeah.
there was no contract involved, and that's I side with John Fuda. Like, I don't feel bad for Joe for being robbed of an idea because guess what? You copyright it, you trademark it, you sign it, you deal it. Louis
Yeah.
did he's shisty. You knew who you were getting in business with, so I don't feel that bad. And Louis is gonna Louis. So
Yeah.
I'm sad these pizza
Yeah.
ovens are sitting in a hack and sack warehouse in New Jersey that nobody can buy, except for Andy.
Yeah.
Andy got one on Watch What Happens Live.
Yeah, there's it's just so much. Jesus.
Yeah. And they're going back and forth about this. And Joe's like, I'll buy them from you. I'll buy them from you. I'll change the logo. I'll buy them from you. And
I totally
he's
feel
like, yeah, yeah. And he's like, I don't need your money. He's like, yeah, you do. You do actually need the money. And then he keeps saying he lost over $200,000. And Joe Gorga laughs and goes, no, you didn't. Like, that's not true. And Melissa goes, I saw the bills. It was $100,000. And he's like, well, when you build a house, you don't just have lumber. And they're like, what? There was nothing built. You
I
bought
love
the
that
ovens
Teresa
and you
kept
took some
saying
photos.
she kept saying the website, the internet, the website. I'm like, boo boo. No, that's
No,
not
no, Teresa.
that's not
No.
even where half the
No.
money went to.
And at the end of the day, like both sides are just not in the right at all. I mean, Joe Gorga, we know, owes a ton of money for whatever
They both owe a
construction
shit ton of
things in
money.
his world that's happening. I mean, people are commenting on his Instagram pictures just like, hey, so about that payment you owed me from 2 years ago, what's
Yeah.
going on? So, like, we know
Yeah.
Joe Gorga's not the best with paying people back, but also then, like, you've got this guy pairing it with Louis. Like, but why did you think this plan was going to work? I don't understand.
I
These
mean,
are like the two people where an agreement and a lawyer needs to sit down with you
exactly.
two and be like, okay, cool, this is an idea. Got it. We're going to map everything out. Where's your business plan? And let's do this. And that's the way it should have been started. Not like, I have an idea. Let's go do it. And then I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and so this is when they asked John Fuda his opinion, and that's when Teresa starts talking over him, and that's when Andy yells at her right in her face, "Let him talk." And then she said, "You've been doing this all day," and she's like, I thought she was gonna cry. Yeah, I would have cried
I
if
did.
somebody yelled in my
Yeah.
face like that, but she doesn't. She just was like, she went. He was, and she goes, "Okay, okay."
And
So
she
then they go
actually
into the.
shut up for like the next 5 minutes straight.
But then I
She
love
did.
that, like, I think Louis tried to say something, and then I think Joe Gorga kept trying to talk over him, and then Teresa was like, "No, no, you have to let him talk. You have to let him talk.
Yeah.
Tell him to let him talk. Why don't you yell at him?" I was like, "Okay, this is not what this was for. Just stop. This was supposed to stop you guys from talking over each other the entire episode. Please stop doing
Yeah.
this."
Well, then they asked this whole thing about Dina's husband, David. And I've seen this about, Dina didn't go to the wedding, and Dina and her husband were hanging out with Louis quite a bit, and Teresa, and then they weren't. And the word is that Dina's husband got sick him of Louis sticking them with the bill for everything. They would go on trips, and it would be like they just expect Dina and David to pay for it. And so I think Dina might be right there, even though Dina and Dolores aren't friends, I think that she might be there on the same track with Dolores is like, I'm going to keep my friendship with my friend, but my husband wants nothing to do with this guy. So we can't do couple things anymore, but I'll support my friend until it falls apart. So Melissa does say it was a private conversation that Joe had with David, and he shouldn't have repeated it. Melissa's like, he shouldn't have repeated
Yeah.
it. And then Louis goes, "Yeah, you got a lawsuit, don't you? Got a lawsuit?" And Joe Gorga's like, "What lawsuit? We don't have a lawsuit." And then Joe Gorga has been waiting the whole time, says, "Listen, we know what you are. You're a woman abuser, brother, and that's why I don't respect you." And then Teresa,
That
that was
was,
when she broke her 5 minute
yep.
timeout.
Correct.
Yeah,
That is
like,
exactly when she was like, okay,
"God,
now
don't
I'm going to
talk.
clock back in.
Yeah, don't talk about my husband. He treats me like a fucking queen." And then Gorga goes, "Look at the way he's looking at me. Look at it." And Louis over there raging out. And Louis says, "You're going to meet your match one day. Due time. You're going to meet your match." And
He's so
so
threatening with all
he's
these little
so
comments. He's so like,
threatening.
it is toxic masculinity. Like it
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
is. Like he
Mhm.
keeps throwing these barbs out. You can still be toxic masculinity towards other men. It's a
Oh
microaggression.
yeah.
Like it is possible. He's doing this, and I'm watching this being like, you're not gonna recover. You're not gonna recover from this. I do think that
No,
like he will be the reason why Teresa does not come back on because
for
Bravo is like
sure.
you're too much.
If anything,
It's too
all
much.
Louis is doing is like digging his and Teresa's own grave.
Yep.
Like this
Yep.
entire
Yes.
time. I feel like the beginning of this season, he tried. He was like, you know what? I'm going to show everyone that like I got Teresa to go to therapy and we're working on things and she's doing
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
And like, fine, okay, we fell for it a little bit, but then it's
That one
like,
Teresa therapy scene was
yeah, the one was
priceless.
the thing that I was like, okay, maybe you're doing something. But it's just like, no, actually, you're just a piece of shit. And
Yeah.
like, we all knew that from the beginning when all of those things got leaked about, like, oh, I'm a warrior guy on the beach with all those other like men in that scene, that Instagram video. It's like, from that point
Awful.
on, like, you have just been the worst. And all you've wanted to do was get on this show. And I feel like just drag Teresa down. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Yeah.
Well, he's a love bomber. I mean, we even saw it on
Yep.
Ultimate Girls Trip. It's like, he gave me a card for every day I'm here. I was like, well, that's weird. I'd be like, I'm on vacation. Don't send me a card. Or like, what?
Your
And
New
I,
Jersey accent was spot on, by the way. Like
thank
dead
you.
on. Just there.
Thank you. Thank you. But she doesn't get it. And she had such a
No.
terrible marriage that she has somebody giving her all this love, which is exactly what she's been desperate for. And
Hmm.
yeah, I want to be in my love bubble and all that bullshit. And she with this them sitting there on the bed and him saying to her like, if you're in a pool of snakes, if I was in a pool of snakes, would you pull me out? That I'm pulling you out of the pool of snakes. It's your brother.
Right.
And it's just he's very much trying to pull her away from everybody and get her by herself so that she alienates other people in her life. And he has control over the situation. There's no prenup, which is
Yep.
wild. It's
Frightening.
wild.
Frightening.
It's
Even
wild. What about
Bethany
what?
came on and was like, "Please, Teresa, get a prenup."
Yeah,
Bethany Frankel is telling you to get a prenup. You get a. If Bethany Frankel told me to get a root canal on a tooth I didn't need a root canal for, I'd be like, "I'm getting a root canal." Sorry, babe, I'm getting one. Like, no, you follow that advice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But then Joe asked him, like, "What are you over there, like under your breath? Like you're saying something nice, but under your breath, you're saying due time, due time." And he goes, "Oh, what I meant was, in due time, you're going to regret this with your sister." And then I was like, okay. And then we see, I don't know if you saw this. I saw it on the second watching. You see the hand come from the side rubbing his back. Bill Aiden
Yes,
is
it
rubbing
was
Oh
Bill
Louis's
yeah,
back.
Aiden, and I
yeah.
was like, "Why are you rubbing his back? That's weird. Like, you're a weird human."
Honestly, it was weird when Louis was like, "Hey, I want Bill Aiden to be in my to be one of
Yeah,
my groomsmen." And I
Yes.
was like, what's
what's
happening here?"
happening?
And like the fact that he was rubbing his back, I was
Oh,
like, "There's you." I mean, Bill Aiden's not great either, clearly, but like the both of you are like
well,
fueling the toxicity.
so
You're just making it
when
worse.
we met them at the Brooklyn softball game, we were all standing in line to get a photo. Like, it was me, Teresa, Jess, and Louis. We were getting a photo, and Teresa put her arm around Jess, and then Louis went to put his arm around me, and I instinctively flinched. I was like, "No, we're not. Don't touch me. Bad touch. Bad touch." And that's
Mm-mm.
me. As soon as I saw Bill touch his back, I was like, "Oh no, no, that brought me back. Don't touch me."
Yeah. Now we
Creepy,
get to this whole
creepy.
Jacqueline. The whole Jacqueline thing was pretty crazy. And that's when they're like, well, because Jacqueline told me that you guys were hanging out with Joe Judice's ex-business partner. And they were literally like, we don't even know what are you talking about? And by the way, the business partner didn't go to jail. You did. So then Frank's like, can I,
I
client
loved
privilege here? Can
Oh
this.
yeah.
I,
I
yeah.
loved this. When
He
he
said
was
he
like,
was, yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yep.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say when he said that he was his attorney, I was like, mic drop. There's nobody on this stage who can say anything to Joe Gorga right now other than Frank because he was his literal fucking lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says he didn't say a word to the FBI they called, and he didn't say a word to them. And Teresa's like, well, we know you were talking to the partner. And they're like, we don't know. And Teresa goes, well, Jacqueline has no reason to lie. And he goes, with all
I can't.
due, he
Right,
goes,
exactly.
he
Exactly.
goes, with you standing up for Jacqueline is the joke of the century. Like, roll the tape. And then he
And he
goes,
rolled
we could,
the fucking tape.
Yeah.
when he goes, roll the tape, and then he goes, we could play a 20-minute montage of how much you guys hate each other. It's like,
Mhm.
no, because like she would come at me and I would come back, and Andy goes, right. Right. And Joe
Exactly.
goes, and Joe's like, the things that she said about you, Teresa, are horrible. And she's like, well, whatever. And then she goes, this is it. We're never going to speak again. It's 10 years of this. We're never going to speak again. And Joe goes, yeah, I mean, you came in with this guy with these weird videos. He's a disaster. And
Yeah.
then she goes, oh, yeah, by that video. And I think now not only is she talking about the men on the beach and I'm sorry and I'm going to be a man, that video plus the Rue La La video of him
Mm.
Oh yeah.
crying because he no longer owned Rue La La, which she never owned.
Which I also love that
That's
Joe Gorga brought that up too. He
Yeah.
was like, "What
me
about Rue
too.
La La? Do you own Rue La La?" I was like, "Oh fuck." Oh
That
my god, it's
you
so
got you
dark.
got to have some big balls to like claim like you see that building over there, Rue La La,
Right.
Rue Las. Just I'm crying over it with my ponytail. I'm crying. Like,
My phone too.
why are you crying? You're saying that you own Rue La La? I got a package coming from them today. I just got a FedEx notice. Do I need to thank Louis for my Trina
Yes.
Turk shorts that are coming in the mail?
Clearly.
Right of my handwritten note. Thank you so
But
much.
why did anybody ask? Like, why did you say on that video that that was your family's company? It's not, Why didn't nobody ask him? Or maybe they
I
did.
feel I I feel like in it's kind of like at the end of the episode, well not even towards the end, like right now, the part that we're talking about, everybody is so emotionally exhausted. You see it on their faces. Poor Dolores is like, oh my God, I can't do this. Danielle
Yeah.
and Nate are like, the fuck did we sign up for? I need to go home. I can't do this.
Yeah.
Where's the little girl that's running around screaming? Like, I'd rather go back to them. But I just feel like
Yes.
everybody is just emotionally, just like we are, exhausted.
Yeah, and I feel
Yeah.
like especially
Yeah.
Andy, because
Oh
like
my God, this poor
Andy has
man.
had to go through the Vanderpump reunion.
And then a week
Yeah.
later did New
This
Jersey,
this
and
reunion,
then a
and
week
then
later did Summer
and
House.
like in
Right.
all three, that man had to sit there in the middle of them and be like, "You all need to just shut the fuck up." Like
Yeah.
I can't get a
Yeah.
word edgewise at this point. So I feel like yeah, by the end of this, they're all just like, I don't even care, because even if you do try to confront Louis, like, was Rulala really yours? He's gonna make up some
Yeah, he's
stupid
gonna lie.
lie.
Right.
He's gonna make up an
Yeah.
excuse. He's never gonna own up to it. So it's gonna be a back and forth anyway. So it's like, it's fine. We're just gonna move on.
Well,
I don't-
after he says the thing about the videos, Louis, under his breath, is going, just a matter of time, Joe, just a matter of time. And then Joe goes, oh, what? I didn't hear you. Are you threatening me? And Louis goes, you have stuff in your past. And then Teresa, I think, hopped up
Yep.
and started waving her arms around and screaming to deflect from the video talk because she didn't want Andy to be like,
Mhm.
what was the deal with that video? You know? So then Teresa yells to Margaret, thank you. You ruined our fucking family. And Andy goes, what she did? Margaret did? Okay, let's do something old
We're
fashioned and pretend I'm the host. Okay? Okay. Yeah.
exactly. We're not the biggest
Yeah.
fans of Margaret, clearly.
No.
But I do have to say she's now placed the blame on Caroline, Jacqueline, Melissa, Joe, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph for ruining
Mm-hmm.
her family. At some point, you have to take accountability for yourself, my dear. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's just the fact that you hate your brother and his wife, and they hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
it's been 13 seasons
Mm-hmm.
of the same shit. I mean, it's the same crap from day one of like, oh, Melissa and Joe have it out for me. Oh, these people sent me to jail. Oh, it's always this, it's always that. And I'm like, but what? How is this still a storyline? Haven't we moved well
Yeah.
past this? Girl, you were out of jail. You're not even with Joe. He's not even in this country anymore. So let's move on and find a new thing to talk about, because
And
Yeah.
New Jersey was the very first franchise of Real Housewives that I started to watch from season one forever and ever and ever and ever ago. So New Jersey is one of my favorites, obviously after New York. Um, so watching it from literally episode one, season one to now, I'm like, you haven't moved or emotionally matured in any way, shape, or form. You're still
Except
the
for
same
that one
person.
season. Except for that one season after she got out of jail. And then
yeah.
she
Yeah.
went right back to it. Because then
Yep.
her parole was over. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
After 1
That's
year.
true.
So
She pulled the Luann like, hey, I'm gonna go to Florida, and they called her back like, do you mean you want to go to Florida? Because you can't just say you're
yeah.
going to Florida because you're on parole.
Yeah, right. So then we do the whole thing about Melissa saying we put food on the table, and we go back and forth about what she really meant about that. And then and Melissa goes, I can't please you, honey. Like from day one, I've never been able to please you. And Andy goes, we're not going to resolve that about the food on the table. Let's move on. So Joe is asked, do you regret not going to the wedding? And he goes around and around and around about the whole thing, about them calling him up to talk about the cheating thing, calling to say Melissa was cheating. And Louis says, your day is coming. And Jeff says, who's Jeff? I don't know what
I
that
was about
was.
I was like,
I was like,
maybe
yeah,
I missed
Jeff.
something.
We
Sure,
have
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the bodyguard that was in the lobby.
Yeah.
He came up. He's got an
It's like,
opinion.
yeah, it's
Cool,
the guy
cool,
Bo
cool.
Dietl said. It's fine.
Yeah.
We're good.
Oh my God, Jeff shows up. No, so Joe
Jeff shows
says, so Joe says, Louis, you also said there's multiple men. And Louis goes, I never said that. And she goes, and Teresa goes, he never said that. And Louis, they say Louis actually mentioned a specific name of someone that they thought Melissa was cheating with. And Teresa goes, who? And they say the name. And she goes, oh, yeah, well, that was another rumor. And they're like, so you did say multiple men. And oh, no, we didn't say. Okay, all right. So then they have the whole thing about, did Gia say to Joe on the phone, you can do better than Melissa? Well, 100%, 1,000% she did. We know she did.
Mhm.
Come on. So she goes, well,
I
I'm going to
love
call
it.
Gia right now. Yeah, they're going to call Gia right now. Now, our understanding is that Gia was watching it live on her phone from Coachella because the makeup lady was showing her the backstage. So
Which it
Gia knew the
showed
whole
in the
thing.
trailer where they went to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that
Like,
it was showing.
Yeah.
So she goes, I'm going to call Gia. I'm going to call Gia. So she says, I did not say he could do better than Melissa. And Gia says, I said he should do the right thing for the grandparents and go to the wedding and walk my mother down the aisle. So Teresa goes into the whole thing. It's like, they're both like, I don't know what happened to our relationship. We used to be best friends. I don't know what, and Joe's like, I don't know what happened to you. And she goes, I do. It's her. And Melissa goes, of course. Yeah, it's me, whatever. That's disgraceful. It's fucking disgusting. She gets off. She marches off. Is like, don't come following me. So she falls off. She was,
Which
ah,
they
she was
weren't
like,
going to anyway. So cool. Glad
nobody,
that you set that
nobody was
boundary.
following you. Yeah,
Nope.
no one was following you.
This wasn't last
So
year's reunion year.
no one's following you. So they get to the backstage, and Louis gets on the phone with Gia and is like, Gia, your mom's doing great. She's doing a great job. She's holding her own out here. And then Gia asked an interesting question. Are any other housewives saying that I
Uh,
said
yep.
anything to them?
Yep,
Mhm.
I wrote that down too. I was like, that's a very pointed,
Yeah.
direct, non-ambiguous question that you are asking right now. Why do you
Hmm.
care? Number one, if you're at Coachella. And number two, which housewife would it be?
Yeah.
Right. Who did you
And
say
then
something to?
yeah,
Right.
and then I love how at that point, like, Andy came to talk to Teresa and Louis, and then Louis was like, "Well, no, she actually said like you can do better, meaning like you can do better for my mom, not like you can do better than Melissa." And I was like, "Okay, so now you're just admitting that Gia said it.
It
I
was
mean,
very
we already know Gia said
backtracking.
it, but like now you're kind of admitting it in a weird way to like how you've done this entire reunion or this entire episode. But like, what? Why are we
Yeah,
supposed to believe this?"
it
And
was very
did you
weird.
come up with that just now? Did you come up with that
Right.
Yeah.
just now?
Exactly.
They must have, because otherwise Gia would have said, no, what I said was this.
Yeah.
But he
Right.
came up with that
Exactly.
in the moment.
Which
So
is
back out on
why
the,
he's so crazy. Like
Mhm.
he's
yeah,
able to come up with this stuff like in the moment, not even thinking about. Like, no, I'm not
yeah.
gonna. I'm with Dolores. I'm not fucking with this man.
So back out on the floor, Frank's like, it was never as bad with Joe Judice as has been with this
Mhm,
Louis guy. And
mhm.
Melissa goes, this is the worst it's ever been in the history of everything. And it's horrible. And with these PIs and all this stuff. And Jen Aiden goes, well, he told me he didn't do it. And John Fuda looks at her and goes, Jennifer, he's lying. I would never have brought up my son or a woman in prison. This is not hearsay. It is true, Jennifer. You dumb dumb. And she's like,
She is
what?
the
I don't think
epitome of
so.
dumb dumb. She is
I
the
don't think
epitome of a
so.
dumb dumb.
Yeah, I just feel like no
So,
matter what, she's gonna like have Teresa's back, and I'm like, there are times you can like not have Teresa's back. You can use your own head, but yeah,
but Andy even says to Melissa, what would be the point of him having a PI investigate everybody? What would be the point? And Melissa goes, because there's so much shit out on him. He wants to have a little folder on everybody else. So that's when Andy goes back and then he comes up with that story. And when he says the story about she was probably saying, do better for your grandparents. And then Andy goes, interesting. All right. So I'm sorry I yelled at you. And she was like, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, Andy didn't even like go, oh, Andy goes, interesting. Huh. Wonder why you never said that before in the 400 times we've discussed this.
Exactly. This is the
So,
okay. Cool. Got it. Got it. Got
okay,
it.
got it. Got it. I'm so ready to go home. So they go back
Exactly. And he's
out.
so excited.
Yeah.
He's like, "Where's Ben? Where's Lucy? I'm over this shit. You guys are
Yeah.
screaming over each other. I don't care anymore. Y'all are fired."
Everybody, I got to say, Andy's like, I'm putting myself on pause. Like, yeah. So,
I'm pulling a Dorinda.
yeah, everybody else goes out there. And then Andy says, okay, well, I'm going to let the guys go. But Teresa, do you have anything else to say to your brother? And she says in Italian again, yeah, I'm heartbroken. You've broken my heart. And Joe goes, look, here's the truth. I'm going to never say never. She is my sister and I love her. And she goes, well, I'll never say never. I was like, you've said it 6 times, 6 times you said on this episode. And he's
Just this
like,
one. There's been two more
yeah,
before this. Just this one.
yeah. And Joe says the best thing is for you to forget about me and I'll forget about you. And I want you to live your life and do your thing and just leave me alone. Leave everybody alone. And he means like for the good of all the people here, I'm gonna, so you'll quit investigating us. And she goes, fine. And as she goes, fine, Louis under his breath goes, goodbye, goodbye.
Yep.
He is so sinister and scary. So
This was
Frank
that
says,
was the saddest part of the whole reunion was like they actually like this was the end. of their
But
entire
Louis putting the nail in, going, goodbye, goodbye. Like my plan
Yep,
worked. Goodbye, goodbye.
exactly.
Mhm.
So Frank says, "Hey man, do I have your word you're not going to investigate?" This is such a weird conversation. Do I have your word you're not going to investigate me? Don't investigate me.
Do you
And Louis says
believe him?
again,
Do you believe him when he says,
"No,
"I give you my word"? Like,
what?
I would be like asking the devil to be like, "Hey, can you promise that you're not going to kill me?" That would be great.
Right?
Like,
Yeah,
no, I would have
totally."
just left
Mhm.
I think Frank was just like, "I'm going to have this videoed. And it's me and you looking eye to eye, and you're
it.
saying this, and I can bring it back up, roll the tape." And he says, "I never investigated you guys." And he goes, "Okay." So he shakes his hand. Louis startles Joe Gorga, shakes his hand. He goes, "I wish you well." And Joe Gorga makes a face like, like, okay.
Yeah.
Like he's like, "I can't believe, don't, and then Melissa's like, "I don't want them near each other." Like he's afraid Joe
Yeah.
Gorga's going to like
Yeah.
smack him. So now Louis, as all the guys are walking off, and Joe Gorga's like, "Let's go take shots." Louis approaches John Fuda and Rachel and goes, "I just want to talk to you guys. I want to say that you used to use a really good mother. And
Yes.
I know that I would never do anything to hurt you." And she goes, "Okay." And our hero, the beard master, Fuda, with his envelope, gets up and says, "If you want to be my friend, you're going to admit to what you did because you know you did it." And he goes, "No, I can't admit to that." And he says, "You found a woman in jail and brought her out." And he goes, "No." And he says, "Apologize like a man. You fucking own it." And Louis goes, "No, no, no." So Joe Gorka steps in and goes, "Let's go, let's go, let's go take a shot." Under his breath, Fuda goes, "He's a fucking con man. He's a snake. Why do you think I'm so fucking angry for? For no reason? For no reason?" And Joe Gorga, I think, is like, let him go to his weird dressing room alone with Bill Aiden, which he does, and let's all go in here and take a shot and talk about him,
Yep.
which they do. So Louis and Dr. Aiden get in the elevator together alone because this is his only friend. And
Which is
Nate
so
has run
crazy.
home Nate has run home to like relieve the babysitter. He's like, I
Nate,
don't know why I was on this
Nate
side.
left halfway through the Louis confrontation. He was like, "Danielle, you got this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm a normal person. I'm going home to the kids and wrap this up. Ask them what they mean by what's a smear campaign, and then that's when I'm going to
Yeah,
dip out."
it
Honestly, I feel
was.
like yeah, Nate and Danielle both, I'm like, "Why are you both here?"
I felt so
Like,
bad
you
for
guys aren't
them.
really talking much. I think Danielle said, like, 2 things this episode. It was
Yeah,
the "What's a smear" campaign and the, like, "Oh, I wish I was at Coachella."
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah,
that's all you
yeah.
gave." Okay.
And I'd like some pizza. That was another thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So um, John Fuda tells Joe Gorga, "I was proud of you. You kept your composure. Everything's coming at you," which is true because Joe Gorga is a hothead and he will storm off. So final moments, Andy says, "Dolores, I wanted to know how you feel about the whole thing." And she says, "I think it's a good time now for them to part ways. Like it's too toxic, and this time
Yep.
apart will do them some good. And I think now they need to take a break from each other." And then Andy says to Danielle, which is kind of a left turn, how will it feel seeing your brother after seeing all this? When you see him at the funeral. And she says, "I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. Like if he says hi to me, I'll fall to my knees because I know what I don't want, and I don't want that." Right?
Yeah.
Now, what do you think of this? Because people say that, like, and she even said her brother was a huge fan of the show. So you're like, are they going to pull Melissa and Teresa and try to get Jen Aiden's sister-in-law and brother on the I mean, not Jen Aiden, sorry, Danielle's sister-in-law and brother on the show?
I think it would be a horrible casting decision to do that only because we're seeing what happens when you bring family unresolved issues onto it, and it's going to just be another 13 years of
Right.
just
We don't have
drama.
time. We don't have the
I
time. We
really
don't have 13
don't.
more years.
We've been talking about this forever. I think Teresa and Melissa got to go. They both got to go. We're like we can't anymore. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with the two of them anymore. I think make it about like not even family, friends. That's what Housewives is
Hmm.
supposed to be. And that's what Jennifer Aiden said at the end. She's like, "We're good when we're friends. We're not good when it's all this drama." I'm 13 seasons in, 13 years in. I watched this when I was still living upstate before I even moved to New York. Like, I can now officially say I'm done with the Gorga Giudice drama. I'm good. I'm at my cap. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
don't There are times I like would enjoy every now and then. I know Robert rewatches these things way more than me,
I
but
don't
every now
watch
and then,
anything else
yeah,
but
every now
Housewives.
and then I'll rewatch something. But it's like with Jersey right now, I'm like I can't even
Yeah.
think about rewatching it because it's
Yep.
nothing has changed from
Right.
season 1 to season 13, and I'm like I'm not gonna sit here and rewatch every. I can't. It's just so much.
Well, that's why I like Housewives, is because it's a human behavioral development thing. It's a psychology, and
Mhm.
watching nobody move and change their thought process for 13 years, I'm like, then why am I watching you? I don't
Yeah.
care. You're not growing as a human. So
Well, I think your point about Jen Aiden saying, I'm exhausted from all this. I loved Ireland. We had so much fun as friends, and they all agree. And she says, I hope we can all put our big girl panties on. And what Jennifer Aiden is trying to say is, I would like for this to continue so I can stay on the show, and I don't want to be
right,
kicked off because I'm aligned with
right.
Teresa. Um, and Dolores is like, well, in order to do that, you have to leave it all behind. You have to be willing to let things go. And they asked Marge, like, do you see a way that you and Jen Aiden could ever be friends? And she was like, I never say never. And yeah, I don't want to have any negative energy. And then she also doesn't want to have this negative energy with Danielle. And then Rachel and Danielle agree to move forward. And Andy says this season, Teresa and Melissa were more open about their feelings for each other and they managed to coexist. And Teresa goes, all I wanted was peace. And I was just trying to be peaceful because I was getting married and I bent over backwards. But Melissa denied me every time. And I just want peace and close the door. And Melissa goes, listen, I feel the hate. I can feel it coming at me. And I know I can't please her. I've tried from day one. I'm never going to be able to please her. I love her and I'll go with the flow and I'll do whatever the family decides to do. She means like whatever Joe decides to do. And then they do a toast with Irish whiskey and pizza. The pizza did not look good.
No.
I would have eaten
Nope.
the shit out of it, but it did not look good. I would they were
As New
they're starving.
Yorkers, pizza is is my thing. Well, your thing too.
Yeah.
It that looked like shit.
Yeah.
I would not. I would
No.
have drank the whiskey. I would have been Teresa on
Yeah.
the phone. Because if you notice when they cut to them cheersing, Teresa's just on her phone texting someone. I'd be like, if you give me that pizza to eat, I would be texting. I'm not
But I
eating this
did need the
pizza.
whiskey. After
Yeah.
that reunion,
Yeah.
please give it to me. I need it.
I gotta tell you that are we do you know because I know that we're getting tonight, Wednesday night when we're recording this, we're getting a Vanderpump Rules Secrets Revealed
Yeah.
episode. Do you know if we're getting one of those for Jersey? Did they say?
No, Jersey. So typically, and we talked about it. You and even Vanderpump hasn't had a secrets revealed in a couple of seasons because
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
it's not been that interesting, to be perfectly honest
Right.
with you,
Yeah.
for the last couple of seasons. So they
Yeah.
don't need one. So this is the first one since I think season 6 or 7 for Vanderpump. New Jersey, I don't need it. I'm not actually even gonna watch the Vanderpump secrets revealed. I don't. There's nothing left to reveal. I'm good. I'm good.
There's no secrets for you. Yeah. Okay.
Good. And even if there are, I don't care. And New
Okay.
Jersey, kind of, if they had I would feel the same way. I don't care. It was so dark, and it wasn't until this last reunion that I felt like I was like, I don't. We need a break from Jersey. This was so dark. Melissa
Mm-hmm.
almost crying at the end of the last episode. Like I said, like we said, Melissa has never been super nice to us, so it is what it is. But seeing her get that emotional, like at the end of it, when she was so done, I was like, okay, we've hit a trigger here for them that we've got to build something else.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I think like you watched Melissa try so hard for an entire season. Like
Yeah.
she was clearly
Mm-hmm.
very mad at Teresa the entire time, and she did everything she could to give Teresa this time because it was she's getting married, she's happy, she's in a
Yeah.
Louis, whatever the hell it was. And like for Teresa then to sit there at the reunion and be like, "You never did anything for me. You
Right.
can't let me have anything." I'm like, if you rewatch this entire season, you'll actually see Melissa is like biting her tongue the majority of the
Most
time.
of the time.
And like I
Mm-hmm.
as Robert said, I'm not going to sit here and defend Melissa because I'm not a fan of either of them at this point. But like, Melissa's right.
Hmm.
Like, are she does everything she can for you, and you go out of your way to make everyone else's life a living hell. So like, what? How does this make sense to anyone? Or yeah, I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am a Melissa stan, and I really don't know why. I think it's because she followed me on Twitter a long time ago. So so then I'm like, well, then I have to be for her
I
forever.
have to be.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I have to be. And I've always felt like, Teresa, I didn't always just love her, but I wasn't like a tree hugger, a tree stump. I was just
Tree
never
stump.
like yeah, I just wasn't a hater. I was just sort of like ambivalent on her. And I always pretty much liked Melissa, probably because I like to look at her because she's so pretty. I'm shallow
Mhm.
She
like
is.
that. But
So
I
are we.
think
It's
that
fair.
this season, I think that really I was like, what has she done so wrong? Like, are we still going back
Nothing.
20 years
She
ago
didn't
when
do
she
anything
brought the
wrong.
sprinkle cookies or she got on the show or whatever? Like, okay, I don't know. I could see the show going forward with Melissa for a couple seasons and putting Teresa on pause. I can also see it the reverse. I can see Teresa and Louis gunning real hard for a spinoff with like a Brady Bunch kind of thing,
That's what I'm
and
thinking.
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
lasting like a Don't Be Tardy for the Party, and like lasting one season or whatever. Um, I don't know why and how Louis claims to be so rich when he said on Watch What Happens Live he does direct marketing or whatever Jen Shaw's in prison for. So
Right,
how is he
right,
so
right, right.
rich?
We
We
didn't
don't
even talk about
know.
that. Correct. Yep.
Mm-mm.
Yep, 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 yep. It's exactly why Jen Shaw is in prison in Texas with that
Hmm.
other lady who just got sent there. I don't
Yeah.
remember her name,
Yeah.
but she got sent there for a reason. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Teresa's picker is permanently broken, I have
Yeah.
to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anybody watching this show is like, this is a lesson in how to love bomb somebody and then alienate them from their friends and their family. It's a step by step. It's a step by
Yep.
step. Oh my God. Well, listen, tell everybody where they can find your podcast and your amazing Instagram and all that stuff so we can make sure you get more and more Instagram followers. And then maybe you can teach me your ways.
Yeah, you can find us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or essentially wherever you listen to your podcast, honestly. But it's The Real Housemates of New York. And that's also on Instagram. We also have a YouTube, which hopefully exciting things will be coming
Yeah.
soon
Oh,
ish.
fun.
Yeah, and then all the other socials that we have that are slowly coming. Instagram's our primary one because Robert's the best at that one. But yeah, so give us a listen, give us some likes. We love you guys,
Yeah,
and we love you,
please. And
Mary
you guys, yeah.
Kay.
Thank you guys. If you go over and listen, you give them like a 5 star and you like them on Instagram, do all the things that we do when we support our fellow podcasters, please. And do you guys, how often do you put out an episode?
Weekly. So we'll
Yeah.
do a recap of whatever shows have happened that week. So right now we're covering Atlanta, OC, and what am I missing?
OC,
Jersey.
Atlanta, and
Jersey. Yeah.
Jersey.
Well, Jersey's
And then
over.
Yeah.
once Jersey's over, then it'll be OC, Atlanta, and
Oh, Crappy Lake
New-
starts soon.
yeah, Crappy Lakes. And then
Crappy Lake.
we're so excited for the new Roni.
Yeah.
As New Yorkers, I really
Yeah.
want people to give these women a chance. Like
Oh, I'm
it
excited. Yeah, I'm excited.
it's gonna be so amazing. The fact that we've got women who live in Brooklyn, women who live in the Bronx, like it's not just the Upper East Side. It showcases
Hmm.
our whole big, beautiful city. I'm excited for Roni,
Yeah.
I am
Same.
too.
and that's on the 16th, I think, of July. So yeah,
Okay, well,
you
I'll
can.
have you guys come back on once we get into Roni, and then you can give me your New Yorker opinion on it. Okay?
Oh, we love that.
Awesome.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
That'd be so
Yeah,
much fun.
that would be great because I love New York. I don't get there enough, so I'm always so fascinated. Like I'm telling you guys, I interviewed a girl from Match Me Abroad that lives in New York today, and she lives in the financial district. And she was showing me like her view out her window. I was like, "Oh, are you in the financial district?" Because I kind of like know where that is. We had this whole conversation. She was saying things like, "I don't go above 14th Street." I was like, "What a New York thing to say! I don't know what that means." I
So yeah,
was
I
like,
think
"All I
I've
know
said
is there's
things like that. So yeah.
yeah, yeah." I was like, I don't know what
My
that
my
means, but I guess that's
my max is like 125th. I won't
Oh,
go
I
above
do not go that
125th.
far up.
I had to go there for work, so.
No.
I don't know what any of that means, but producer Inger will know what all
Well,
of it means because
the
yeah,
next time you're
she's
in
into
New York,
yeah.
message us and we will meet you for lunch and or dinner, and we'll show you the whole kit and caboodle where my foot is not in a bowl of Chipotle on the
Love
side of
it.
the street.
We love
Yeah,
it. Love
definitely.
it. Yeah. My producer Ingrid that you guys met, her daughter is going to NYU in the fall.
Oh,
So we are
fun.
going to have more excuses to come as if we needed any more, but we'll have excuses to come. She's like, I've already got a hotel room booked. I was like, when are we going?
Oh,
We love it.
yay.
All right. Well, thank you guys. And everybody follow Real Housemates of New York podcast and Real Housemates of New York Instagram. It is very, very funny. And like I said, if you like what you see, you follow, you give the 5 stars, you do all the nice things we do for our friends. And thank you guys, Robert and Jessica. And I will talk to you soon.
Thank
Yeah, thank
you.
you.